And hello there, my viewer. Welcome to Science TV. And here today, we're bringing you the Classroom Show. This is a show which you get to enjoy each and every Tuesday from 4:30 till 5. And now we are ready. I have my guest with me. I am your host, Ruth Wairimo, and my sign language interpreters. We have two of them, Loni Maina and Esther Kindi. Allow us to get into it and allow me to allow my guest to introduce himself for us to get to know him. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. My name is Ben Wirangai, and that is my signing.
Wow, amazing, amazing. I really like how you've said it and the signum and the name introduction. So today on this show we have a very important topic on the classroom show is where we get to make sure you're learning something, we're improving your skills on sign language, and also we make sure all the hearing people watching can become experts in understanding the deaf community because we teach sign language and allow growth. And also, we make sure we create awareness about deaf people. And today, we are doing that with Ben Werangai. So, on the discussion today, we are going to be touching on several things. Remember, uh, he was born deaf, growing up as a deaf person, having to learn sign language, and his experience generally as a deaf person. How has it been? And have you experienced, if he has experienced any uh, uh, gaps when he was growing up? I'd like to know more about that.
Thank you very much. Yes, it is true. I was born deaf. I was sick with malaria, and when I went to the hospital, that was when I was diagnosed with. They then discovered that I was deaf, and it was hard for me to communicate. Even though my parents were able to take me to school, though at first I was in a hearing school, it was a very big challenge, and that is how later they took me to a deaf school where I got to learn sign language.
Wow, that is very, very amazing. You've given us a very, very clear explanation, and you're telling us you're interacting in a community of people who don't know sign language. How was it for you?
Yes, it is very important to note that, with some of these things, they were hard, and also I had to, teach some of them alphabets because they were very important in and also learning from interpreters at the same time.
So, as your family is getting to learn sign language as you're growing up, did this affect your relationship with your family, or how was it?
Yes, it did affect because, when it came to teaching and signing, some people could not understand what I was teaching. Also, interpreting was quite hard.
So allow me to ask you, maybe when you're interacting with interpreters and everyone, and I feel like we have young and old interpreters all at once. So tell us, as you're interacting with them, example, if you're in a community of deaf people, do you find that some people are always looking at deaf people thinking they're crazy? Or do you think there's always a big challenge when interacting with people in general? And do you feel like you meet people who get to laugh at you and have a big challenge? Or how do you navigate through all these challenges? Because sometimes you get to meet people, maybe some interpreters you don't like them. How do you even navigate through all this?
Okay,
Do you ever get stuck?
okay. Thank you for that question. Yes, at times I do get stuck because, there is no aim, there is no goal to achieve that in the end. So when learning, people getting to understand that is quite hard, but when you sign, they get to see how easy it is.
And that is very, very true. I really hope my viewers are getting to understand your journey and know how the interaction between the deaf people and the persons who are hearing, how it is very crucial and important. Because for deaf people, I feel like we need skilled people from the hearing community who are qualified for them to bridge the communication gaps. And that is very, very important because without the expertise or without the experts, and then deaf people get misrepresentation. And we have to keep in mind that a single word change in a statement can actually affect the whole statement and also affect the image of the person who is receiving the statement because of misrepresentation. So having skilled people who are very flexible to interact and not correct people in a very wrong way, but in a very loving way, that is very, very important. If someone is stuck somewhere, it's always easier if people get to ask, and then it becomes simpler with time. So we also have the natural signs which we use at home. Can you give us some examples of how they come about?
Sometimes when you're signing, with deaf people, they're very skilled and they use Kenyan Sign Language. But as people grow up, they get to use natural sign language, which they get to learn the right one and change to KSL later on.
Wow, that is very, very insightful because one thing for sure, having to bridge communication gap, that is very important. And you have to be very flexible anytime you're interacting. I'd like to welcome each person who's watching, whether you're skilled, whether you're an expert, whether you're learning, please come learn sign language. And I'd like us to all join the deaf community. If your hands are flexible, it becomes easier. Don't stay on one level, keep on improving and maybe just shift the side or the goalpost which you're playing at, and allow the deaf person who's seated next to you or you get to interact with often doesn't get stuck through communication gaps. Sometimes we have to make sure we are even conversant with basic sign language to allow a deaf person to be able to communicate with you. That is very, very heartwarming, and we feel very good as deaf people. But without any knowledge of sign language, it is always difficult. Most of the time, it's never easy. And I can give an example of when you go to a hearing school, a college, or university. Most of these levels, you have people who and institutions which are offering sign language. I'd like to encourage each and every person to make sure they get to learn the language. If there are parents who have daughters and sons who are deaf, tafadhalini, I really ask and I'm requesting, please don't hate your kids, don't feel bored, but learn sign language. Now let's put that aside. And I want us to create awareness because this is Deaf Awareness Creation Month, and I'd like us to dive into that. So tell me about Deaf Awareness Month. Where did it come from and what is important in this month?
It is important to note that the Happy International Awareness Month is celebrated worldwide, and learning sign language is very important. It is very interesting and at times hard because when you go to the hospital, there are no interpreters. When you go to government offices, there are no interpreters. And now they have changed, and we have interpreters in these institutions, in hospitals, and we're very proud about it as well. Deaf people are very happy and proud when they get to see how that people can are interested in learning and they get to understand what it is that we are signing, because writing at times is very difficult and a lot of time is wasted in that. And that's why we're celebrating sign language this month in general.
Wow, that is very, very nice because you've pointed out we have dates where we've seen that the government is really advocating to give support to the deaf persons out here, because on 9th, and this month of September is very, very crucial for us to make sure we make as much noise as we can. And everywhere in the world, we have deaf people commemorating to have these events and make sure they get in touch with one another, celebrate this event. We have the different deaf people, and then we have people who are considered to be half deaf. How do you tell? How do they get to be in that situation?
Most people are considered half deaf because they were born when hearing and they lost hearing in the process. And now they rely on mouthing to communicate.
Wow, and maybe you can share with us maybe an experience of how you're interacting with some people in this moment. They claim they're deaf, and you see the pride, you see the joy, you see people trying to learn. Then they get to sign Happy International Deaf Awareness Month. I really want to congratulate each and every person who has taken time to post a video and wish the deaf people Happy International Deaf Awareness Month, because this is a very, very important day, and we'd like to welcome each and every person where there'll be an event, a meeting, or anything happening. Please make sure you come the whole month or half. When are we celebrating it?
What time? Yeah, the full month
Of September.
of September is very important to note that we will be celebrating it.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think in churches, maybe in October or different dates, do they have disability awareness creation and different services, or do you think it happens a few times?
Sometimes it happens often, but in some place they're always creating awareness often.
I really, really enjoyed the discussion. I'm really happy to talk about the Deaf Awareness Month, which is a very interesting conversation, but allow us to continue that discussion and dive deep into it. We have different people who are joining us at our place of work who are really then new people who have just gotten from class learning sign language. When you meet the new people who are coming to interact with you and they have basic communication, what do you feel about that?
We get to have so many people from Kise that are learning and have learned a sign language, and they're coming for their attachment here. So they come with plenty of variations for various signs. And they get to learn everything here. We get to correct the wrong ones and give the right ones, some of which are very important signs that they need to learn. It's very important that you do not stick to one sign, but interact with people as you get to learn together.
Wow, and you're really talking about the aspect of flexibility, and that is very important. I really like that discussion because most of the time you get to find deaf people who get to experience comments or they get abused often by people who maybe some people get to refer to them like ugly. Maybe they say their voices ain't good. Some people get to sign so fast. Some people are slow. Some people get to just watch as someone is signing. They feel good. They feel comfortable. What do you feel about all this?
Facial expression is very important at first when it comes to learning and interpreting at the same time. Without facial expression, the communication is less and becomes boring. and the deaf person will barely follow up with that discussion. But with facial expressions, once they're sharpened and they're perfect, then it's easier to communicate.
Wow, that is very, very amazing. Now, for my hearing audience, make sure when you're getting to communicate with the deaf people, respect the deaf way of communicating, because deaf people will only prefer to communicate a certain type of way. Don't feel like you have to get in fights and even miss out on your facial expressions, because that is always part of the communication when you're finger spelling, when you're doing anything. And I really want to urge each and every person to make sure they imply and use all these skills when communicating. We have to respect each other and make sure that we are not ignoring one side of the community and picking on a few. If you're working with deaf people, there has to be respect, or in any setting where you get to meet a deaf person, we make sure it is full of respect and understanding. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you're coming to the end. Any final words you want to share with my viewer?
Now, I have two very important things that I need them to note when it comes to communicating. Use respectful language. Be very careful with some of the signs that you get to use and whatever that you get to learn. After you learn, make sure that you interact with the deaf community, go to churches, go to so many other institutions, so that you can make your skills improve. That is all. Thank you very much.
That is very, very important. And touching on respect, I really agree with you. Thank you so much for making time to join me here at the Classroom Show interview. And now we've come to the end of our short interview. Thank you, my viewer, for joining us here at Science TV, where we get to make sure you get to learn about deaf people each and every Tuesday from 4:30 till 5. Goodbye and see you next time.